How's everyone doing today? Politics.
I know that I speak for an entire country when I say the name Oliver Twist makes me want to stand up and say no. Makes me want to stand up and shout, I will do better. Maybe for you, that crutch is your fear of what your friends will think of you. Or maybe it's the nagging doubt inside that your answer will be wrong. Or maybe it's a crutch. It doesn't matter. Let it go, because together we shall overcome. I know that I speak for an entire country when I say, I will do better. But if the rumors are true, then the worst has come to pass. I will not cry. I will want to cry, but I won't. I will not cry. I will be strong. I will be as strong as Samson, as strong as Hercules, as strong as Atlas. And I will take up Oliver Twist's mighty mantle. And I say to this nation, and indeed this planet, I am ready. Because I have a dream, and you have a dream. And my dream is to inspire you not only to reach new heights, but more than you can dream of before. To reach newer heights. Or beyond the dreams you've been dreaming now. There once was a crippled boy who walked with a crutch, and now that boy is before you. A man standing on the shoulders of angels. I've cast aside my crutch, and now it's your turn. Stand. Stand with me. Cast aside your crutch, no matter what it is, and stand. Maybe for you, that crutch is your fear of what your friends will think of you. Or maybe it's the nagging doubt that your answer will be wrong. Or maybe it's a crutch. It doesn't matter. Let it go. Because together we shall overcome. Stand. Stand with me. Cast aside your crutch, no matter what it is, and stand.
Good afternoon. In February, sadly, we learned of the first known coronavirus death in the United States. Since then, over 80,000 Americans have died and nearly 1.4 million have been infected. 33 million Americans have filed for unemployment insurance. We all know these numbers. We face the biggest catastrophe in our nation's history. We must approach this tragedy with the deepest humanity as we go into the future. Our hearts are broken by the loss of life. The number of 33 million Americans who have filed for unemployment insurance is almost unimaginable. This is a moment when many millions of our fellow Americans are in deep suffering.
We scrutinize it after the fact when time is so essential, we could lose businesses. And right now we're arguing over which businesses need it most. With the exception of just very few businesses, most industries across the country are in desperate need. Do we have to start to focus and say, does the federal government need to just take over payroll, create mortgage deferment, or simply say, we need to create a national economic holiday until it's safe? Because right now, we're bickering over who's suffering more.
Again, when we pass, so you have again when we pass. Leader of their floor debate on our bill we passed the other day on there saying we could have done this 2 weeks ago. No, we couldn't have. They could have agreed to the additional. They had 250. We brought it up to 480. Again, when we passed, when we brought up to 480, it had $100 billion for hospitals and testing in there, which is essential
to our opening up, testing, but we also had $120 billion for smaller businesses which are getting left in the shade. And that just wasn't right. So it isn't a question of bickering. It's about establishing priorities, and we have differences between our parties. The gentleman that you interviewed, Mr. Brady, he said on the floor of the House, we could have done this 2 weeks ago. Except they had extracurricular stuff. Extracurricular stuff, extracurricular stuff, extracurricular stuff.
This week, the Speaker published an 1,800-page seasonal catalog of left-wing oddities and called it a coronavirus relief bill.
Leader McConnell said, "We have not yet felt the urgency of acting immediately." That time could develop, he said, but I don't think it has yet.
$100 billion for hospitals and testing, $120 billion for small businesses, more in terms of the idle loans, which are flying out the door because they're easier to get for businesses. They have a long term and a low interest rate, so they're very appealing. And the grants and aid that never do have to be paid back, in addition to $250 billion more for PPP.
I represent one of the hardest hit communities in the hardest hit city in this country, Queens, New York. 13 dead in a night in Elmhurst Hospital alone. Our community's reality is this country's future if we don't do anything. Hospital workers do not have protective equipment. We don't have the necessary ventilators, but we have to go into this vote eyes wide open. What did the Senate majority fight for? One of the largest corporate bailouts with as few strings as possible in American history. Shameful, shameful. The greed of that fight is wrong for crumbs, for our families. And the option that we have is to either let them suffer with nothing or to allow this greed and billions of dollars, which will be leveraged into trillions of dollars, to contribute to the largest income inequality gap in our future. There should be shame about what was fought for in this bill. And
so we have to be smart about this. They could have agreed. What they rejected 2 weeks before, they passed unanimously in the Senate and overwhelmingly in bipartisan way in the House.
Yeah, sure.
What your administration is saying.
Sure. I think Speaker Pelosi's incompetent. She lost the Congress once. I think she's going to lose it again. She lifted my poll numbers up 10 points. I never thought I'm leading everybody. We're doing great. I don't want to do it that way. It's almost unfair if you think about it. But I think she's incompetent, and I think she's not thinking about the country. And instead of making a statement like that, where I've been beating her routinely at everything, instead of making a statement like that, she should be saying we have to work together because we have a big problem potentially, and maybe it's going to be a very little problem. I hope little problem. But we have to work together. Instead, she wants to do that same thing with Brian Jeff Schumer. He goes out and he says, the president only asked for $2.5 billion. He should have $8.5 billion. This is the first time I've ever been told that we should take more. Usually we have to take less. And we should be working together. He shouldn't be making statements because it's so bad for the country. And Nancy Pelosi, I mean, she should go back to her district and clean it up because it's the number one. If you look at percentage down, that was one of the finest in the world. And now you look at what's happening. And I'm just saying, we should all be working together. She's trying to create a panic. And there's no reason to panic. And so that these professionals behind me and over here and over there and back here and in some conference rooms, I just left a group of 45 people that are the most talented people in the world. Parts of the world are asking us in a very nice way, can they partake in helping? So Nancy Pelosi shouldn't, and she knows it's not true. She knows all they're trying to do is get a political advantage. This isn't about political advantage. We're all trying to do the right thing.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today?
When you don't fund state and local, you know who you don't fund? Police, fire, school teachers, school officials. What was the possible theory of funding large corporations, but not firefighters, and not police, and not healthcare workers? I mean, it boggles the mind. And all they said was, don't worry. Right? Don't worry, we're going to do it in the next bill. We're going to do it in the next bill. We're going to do it in the next bill. I said to our congressional delegation, I said to our senators, Schumer and Gillibrand, don't pass this past bill that they just did unless you have state and local funding, because They're not going to do it. Don't worry, don't worry. They're not going to do it. As soon as the Senate acts, McConnell turns around and says, oh, I'm not going to do it. The state should declare bankruptcy. Bail out to the blue states. Bail out to the blue states. Again, the most un-American, uncharitable, ugly statement of all times. Yes, New York had more coronavirus cases than Kentucky. You know why? The flights from Europe land in New York. The flights were not landing in Kentucky. That's why we have the coronavirus cases. That's what the researchers now found 2 months later. That the virus went from China to Europe, got on a plane, and came here. And by the way, the virus probably got on a plane in China and came here. But China maybe landed in California. The European flights landed here. That's why New York has the coronavirus cases. Bail out New York. You're not bailing out New York. New York has bailed you out every year. It's bailed you out. Mitch McConnell is a taker, not a giver. New York is a state of givers. We put more money into the federal pot every year. We're the #1 state in donating to the federal pot. #1. Kentucky is the #3 state in taking from the federal pot. They take out more from the federal pot than they put in.
Hi guys, Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's it going tonight? So I thought today we should really focus on what exactly brought us to these moments, which are, I guess, the last few days of 2020, which has been a crazy, crazy year for everyone. Ups and downs, all kinds of ways, guys. We had enhanced unemployment. Well, first off, we had a wonderful, I would say, beginning of the year with the New Year's thing, the Mariah Carey lip syncing, then all that was fun and games, right? We had our jobs, we had our security. We didn't have to worry about Nancy Pelosi. We didn't have to worry about Mitch McConnell. We had our own thing. We had our own minds. We had our rugged individualism, and we had ourselves maybe a little bit of savings, and we were on our way. Okay. March rolls around. Before we know it, businesses are being shut down. Government mandates are being unleashed. And then my own business ends up closing down. We all wonder what, in fact, we're going to do. Suddenly, we find ourselves beholden, behested to the government. Because if the government is going to sacrifice our liberty for the security of everyone, for promoting the general welfare and making sure that everyone's safe, and then this pandemic that can save lives, then obviously with the businesses shut down, with people out of work, the only possible solution would be to remunerate those businesses, and would be to make sure that those people weren't starving while they were staying at home. So before any of that was taking place, of course, we had the 48-hour buffering of the stock market, since the stock market went all the way down when they shut the businesses and didn't propose any stimulus whatsoever. In 48 hours, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and all of those people that you see before you, not Governor Cuomo because he was dealing with New York matters, but everyone in our federal United States government, both bicameral legislative houses of Congress, had already set their sights on buffering the stock market to make sure that it did not drop, and that all of the wonderful airplane industries, hotel industries, Wall Street, Raytheon, Boeing, the military industrial complex, and all of the people with their wonderful government contracts who they enjoy the federal government money. That money keeps going. Their stocks keep forming, and the money keeps trickling down. Apparently trickled down. Yeah, so 48 hours they passed their first stimulus. for the Wall Street banks and the military-industrial complex. That was in February. In March, we had yet another stimulus go out to Raytheon, Boeing, and the airplane industry and the hotel industry. Now, that was reported in the Washington Post and, of course, the New York Times. The New York Times. The New York Times. It wasn't until the third go-around, after the vacation in Martha's Vineyard, and people were trying to figure out what, in fact, was going on with the unconstitutional mandates, and no hope to reimburse the working people of the country, that Nancy Pelosi decided to step forward with the CARES Act, just one more stimulus in a list of stimuluses that, as you saw in the video, she told us not to worry about. She told us to don't worry about a thing. I've got this all figured out. First, we're going to help out our businesses with the PPP, and we're going to make sure that we have an enhanced unemployment. And then we're going to make sure that those businesses can make sure that they don't die, that our private sector is not just full of the monopolies that you see before you. The monopolies, in fact, that give money to us, the people that give money to us, that fund our campaigns. Well, what ended up happening, guys, and this isn't just my opinion, but the small businesses, by the way, first of all, this happened well within a month after the shutdowns. So the small businesses that were merely just starting out, they died automatically. There was no reimbursing or remuneration for their costs. They died because all they had was cash on hand. They ran out of cash and they died. The unemployment was enhanced $600. That caused peace of mind to people that were out of work for a time until in May, the HEROES Act was passed. And we thought that they would come to an agreement in the Senate and pass it into law. That agreement never happened. The law was never signed. And we had ourselves a hiccup inside our plans here. Everyone else's plans, by the way, in the world, in Denmark, Sweden, in Norway, in the UK, and everywhere else, businesses shut down and they were reimbursed by the government on that day. There was no even 48 hours. There was just an agreement in every single country that they would be reimbursed, and they were. And businesses shut down. People shut down. People stayed home, and people were fed. Businesses didn't go to the wayside, and everyone else in the world did this the right way, except for us. They passed a UBI of $2,000 a month in Canada, in Australia, and in the UK. Meanwhile, we were 7 months later. We have a Congress that only for the political pleasure of themselves have withheld stimulus, and in fact gone on with asking businesses to be shut down with no hope for remuneration or reimbursing of their time and their penalty. So this is a time which we have reached a crisis. There's a health crisis. There's a political crisis with our two-party system, only playing politics, and playing politics not only with their leverage, but with the American people themselves, waiting not to pass a stimulus, even when President Trump wanted a stimulus. He wanted a $1.8 trillion stimulus that Nancy Pelosi nixed. Now Nancy Pelosi comes back and agrees to Mitch McConnell's $900 billion stimulus, which, by the way, has no payment protection program. It has no income earned tax credit. It has no checks for American citizens. It has nothing for the American people. It only has stimulus for their donors. So it kind of makes it all seem very interesting. All seem very interesting indeed. That Cuomo complaining about how they did not fund state and federal human resources the safety nets for the American people. This kind of just makes it all come back, and it tells you that, in fact, the Republicans might have been right about big government, because it turns out big government, even when you expect it to run properly, even when you look at every single country on the face of the earth besides the United States and see how it ran and see how their coronavirus cases dropped and their businesses were okay and prospered, it makes you just think government doesn't work. But no, I'm here to tell you people that government works. It just doesn't work here. And that's because of the two-party system. Let's have Cuomo say some more words about this.
Every year. But this is America. States, one federal pot. You put in what you can, and the states that need it, take it. Okay. So here, New York was the #1 donor state, putting in more money than it took out. Putting in more money than anyone else. And taking out less. #1 donor state. Kentucky every year was the #3 state that took out more than they put in. So they were we were putting money into the pot. They were taking our dollars out of the pot. And now he wants to look at New York and say, we're bailing you out.
So this is the kind of mammy, pass the buck,
my money back,
the blame
Senator.
game that we've been dealing with this entire time,
Just
guys.
give me my money back.
Give me my money back, huh? What else we got?
Authorizes states to declare bankruptcy. Sign the bill, Mr. President. Economy's coming back. We're doing great. Pent-up demand. Stock market wants to take off. Good. Pass a bill allowing states to be bankrupt. And then let's watch how the stock market takes off at that great news about our economic resilience.
So, by the way, the stock market is at all-time highs right now. And immediately after the CARES Act was passed into law, obviously the big fish ate the little fish. And I saw all through, it was a reverberation. It was like Alderaan in Star Wars when the Death Star blew it up. All those little tiny pieces. I felt a great disturbance in the force. And Raytheon, Boeing, Dow, every single high-brow business, and not to mention Apple and Microsoft, who are involved with making the vaccine, benefited greatly and bought up every single piece of small business that they could. And now, guys, we have an income inequality that is, first of all, it was bad before. But this is literally, I believe, the final extraction of the middle class. This is the time in which the last of the middle class is going to be funneled with its resources and its labor right up into the 1%. And God only knows what comes next after this. This is a massive crisis, and it pales in comparison to any other crisis that we have had in our past. That includes the Great Depression and Herbert Hoover. And by the way, this is a failed state that the government reaction and the government prescription has failed in comparison to any other crisis known to our wonderful country, whether it be Pearl Harbor, whether it be the Great Depression, whether it be any other crisis that has ever fallen on the shores of our country. This has been the greatest unanswered and, by the way, incompetently run government. This is bad, guys. The government fucked it all up. Let's say it could have been easy. There were simple solutions. There was a science guiding along the way, and yet things got politicized, prioritized to the 1% and the oligarchs, and politics took its toll away from logic and reason and absolutely easy solutions that, if we just stop playing politics for 1 second, could have come to a consensus and we could have solved together as brothers. Now, God help us all. Do I have anyone in my chat right now? I don't have anyone in my chat right now. It's gonna be it's kind of a short show. Pete Madman, what are you thinking? What do you got? What do you got for me, bro? You got anything, Pete Madman? What are we gonna do with our government? Literally, guys. A funnel transfer of wealth not seen since the Gilded Age, right? The CARES Act. The enhanced unemployment cut short, and not only that, it was pimped out. It was wrapped up by the progressives. What government? That's exactly correct. Our government. The progressives, except for, AOC, who said that all of this stuff in the first place, it's transfer of wealth, tried to warn us, yada, 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 still voted for it anyway with the voice vote. And then Nancy Pelosi not passing, she passed it from the House. By the way, they're picking up all kinds of legislation that's not going to pass the presidency, especially with Joe Biden at the helm, like the decriminalization of marijuana. And they're trying to pass it through the House. This is all just bullshit. What was I saying? This is all just symbolic bullshit gesturing. This is what you call, what do they call it? This is called posturing. This is called virtue signaling. But this is not called getting business done in the Congress. This is called virtue signaling. That's what this is called. Because you're going to pick up a bill, Congress, about the decriminalization of marijuana. First of all, legalize marijuana, not decriminalize it. You bullshitters. Yeah, right in the midst of when everyone's losing their houses, where are we going to smoke fucking pot? In our fucking, the back? In the trailer alleys? What about the eviction moratorium that actually at Christmas, right after Christmas, is now in effect? The eviction moratorium is over. All of the protections that were passed in the CARES Act are disintegrated. We have no safety nets, and we have no stimulus. And then you're going to actually try to pick up decriminalizing marijuana. You guys are so dumb. And yet, what's funny is people are actually, oh God, they're literally trying to. I don't know, man. Do you guys realize that your government is playing games with you right now? Thanks. But I'm talking to you. What do you think? When are people going to wake up and know they're getting fucked with? Okay? This partisan shit is dumb. Trump's already lost. Who cares? And when are we going to get a stimulus? Hashtag where the stimulus? Pete Madman. Where is it? Where that? So, y'all, when you're watching MSNBC, when you're watching Joy Reid, when you're watching Rachel Maddow tell you your stories and stuff, when you're watching Fox News talking about the dead people voting and all of the mysterious car crashes in Kansas, could you just ask him, please, where is stimulus? Tommy Nation Politics wants to know. And, well, if you're from the UK, you got nothing to worry about. They're taking care of you over there. We're still playing games. I can't wait to see how this game ends. Hopefully we'll all be surviving. Chances are, not really. Tommy Nation Politics. It was Tommy Nation Tuesday tonight. Join us again, Tommy Nation Tuesday, every Tuesday at 8.